of regional.
Because I have said that.
All right, welcome back. It's Daybreak on Trust TV. It's time for us to take a look at the dailies on Daybreak. And we'll begin with the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Talking about the lead story here, it's talking about 2023 Hajj. It says, Nigerian airlines seek more slots. Saudi carrier takes 40%. 60 domestic airlines share 51 billion naira. Saudi gets 34 billion naira. And then we must respect bilateral pacts, says experts. Our local capacity to deliver major problem. And that's on page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. You also would see other stories there. Benue man buried alive over witchcraft. You'd find that on page 17. Election Tribunal, Falana, others back live broadcast. You would see that on page 24. 2 Chibok girls escape from Boko Haram captivity. Now, above the lead story, 70% of NNPC's AKK gas pipeline delivered, project not abandoned, says Kyari. Fresh intrigues as Northwest insist on Senate presidency. You'll find that on page 10. Tinubu returns, says, I'm ready for task ahead. And that's on page 5. These are the main stories on Daily Trust this morning.
Now let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. It has a lead story that says, Tinubu returns after 34 days, dismisses ill health rumors. And the first rider says, ignore ill health rumors. I will assemble strong team and hit the ground running, President-elect. We also have President-elect, APC National Working Committee to meet lawmakers-elect over NAS leadership. And below that, we have a pictorial of the President-elect stepping out of the aircraft and that of his supporters. We also have Ondo farmers raise the alarm over herdsmen attacks. Still on the Punch, Lagos Stadium from West Africa's best to national shame. 8 states got zero investments in 4 years. This is according to a report. And just above the masthead, we have Sudan conflict. Ethiopia blocks fleeing Nigerian students. Functions agree 72-hour ceasefire. And we have a rider that says federal government knocks students for ignoring warnings against self-evacuation. Still on the Punch, Nigeria Governors Forum holds valedictory session for 17 outgoing governors. These are the major stories on the Punch newspaper for today.
All right, now let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. On the Nation, the lead story says, we will deliver on renewed hope agenda, Tinubu affirms. I'm strong, very strong. Rousing welcome for President-elect. Now, above the, I would say right below the masthead, 2,800 Nigerians expected today from Sudan. You have also above the masthead, AKK pipeline to boost power with 3,600 megawatts. NNPCL invest $1.1 billion. How APC will zone Senate House top post. You'd find that on page 5 of the Nation. Why we are embracing private partners by NDDC. Lagos to roll out blueprint on transportation. Now, these are the main stories on the Nation newspaper this morning.
Now let's take a look at this day newspaper. Still on the return of the president-elect. It says, according to Tinubu, disregard rumor about my health. I'm refreshed, ready for task ahead. And the rider, Nigerians are glad to see you back and fit, says Barrow. The second rider, APC to suspend Amechi's ex-chief of staff, others over anti-party activities. And above that, we have, this is from Afenifere, resurgence of terrorism after 2023 polls worrying. And just above the masthead, we have 5 big banks stand firm despite economic headwinds. The rider says hold combined as total assets of 58 trillion naira, 1.1 trillion naira profits. And beneath that, we have from Wigwe, we want 30% trade in Africa facilitated by Access Holdings. These are the major stories on this day newspaper.
All right. Now, on the Guardian newspaper this morning, the lead story, we have International Day. Nigerians spend 2.04 trillion naira yearly on malaria prevention and treatment. All that on page 6. You have also above that, Afenifere tackles Buhari over resurgence of terrorism, plea for forgiveness. Pharmacists kick over exclusion from 40% pay rise for workers, make demands. You have also 161,272 financial threats blocked in Nigeria last year. Worries over HND BSc bill as Buhari's exits nears. You also have, after 34 days rest overseas, Tinubu affirms readiness for task ahead. So these are the main stories on The Guardian this morning.
Now let's take a look at the Vanguard newspaper, still on the president-elect. Sean rumors, I am strong, Tinubu says on arrival from France. Adds, I've rested, refreshed, ready for tasks ahead. And then we also have party leaders to meet soon on zoning of offices. This is according to a source. We have 3 killed as Baggy Hausa youths clash in Abuja. Abducted Kogi monarch dies in kidnappers' den. Again, court dashes Nigeria airs hope of flying. And above the masthead, Sudan, evacuation of over 2,000 Nigerians begins today. We also have 40% pay rise, varsity workers on warpath with federal government over exclusion. I have no reason to take rest because of election. This is according to Peter Obi. And above that, CBN defends forex ban on stockfish importation. These are the major stories on the Vanguard newspaper for today.
All right, now let's get perspectives to some of the stories that we are seeing on our papers this morning. We have Dr. Theophilus Abba, the director of Daily Trust Foundation, with us in the studio to give perspectives to some of the stories we have this morning. Thank you, Doctor, for joining us on
Thank you,
Daybreak.
and good morning.
Yes. Well, a lot of stories, particularly everywhere, seem to be agog with the news of the return of the president-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Amidst the controversy, the criticism, party supporters were, giving a rousing welcome to the president-elect at the airport yesterday. But while all of that was happening, some people were busy looking at the picture of the president-elect, and for them, the catheter seen on his arms is like a validation of all the, talk about his health and him seeking medical attention in France and the rest of them. What do you make of, the mixed reactions trailing the return of the president-elect?
Well, I think, personally, I'm thinking that it's good that he was away for so long, and if what he did was to go and plan. Now, initially he said, it's my turn, or it was his turn to become president. And we've heard that, before. I remember in 2015, some journalists interviewed Buhari in Daura and said, we sympathize with you. Nigeria is so dysfunctional, and now you are taking over, things are bad. He said, no, I wanted it. I asked for it. So I'm going to deal with the challenges I will face. Now, Tinubu was away for 30-something days. And I feel that if he was not ill, nobody has proved that he was really ill. If he was not ill, he must have gone to rest in order to plan. Because there's a lot of work to do. It's a whole lot of work to do. So I just hope that he traveled, he rested, and planned on how to deal with the challenges we face in this country. Because it's not enough to realize an ambition. The fact is that being a president of Nigeria at this point in time is a very huge challenge. So if he has rested, some of the lines from him said, I'm ready to face the challenges and all this and all that. I just hope he has actually planned. But then, if he went to take care of his health, it is still not wrong. So, because I know that, you see, the work ahead is not for the unhealthy.
Yeah, but what others are saying is that, you know, the whole talk about medical tourism, that if and it is if here, because it is all in the realm of speculation. We're meant to believe by the spokespersons of the president-elect that he was on vacation, he went to take a rest, and, you know, from the rigors of campaigns and all that. But again, with this PICC line we're seeing on his arm, seem to be like there is some medical attention as part of the reason behind his travel. Now, if that were to be the case, then people will be thinking, okay, is the president-elect really fit for the task ahead, for how tedious the task ahead is? Those are some of the worries and concerns.
It's true. We should be worried because we need a president that is fit. But, you know, I mean, the fact that his health may not be the best, I mean, his health condition may not be the best, is not new. Right from even before the election, there have been issues about his health. You know, he traveled, people went to visit him to say, oh, we understand that you are not well, sorry, blah, blah, blah. You know, I don't know. In spite of the rumors about his ill health, he still won an election. So my own thinking is that if he went to take care of his health, we just pray that he will be good. I mean, he will be in a good state of health to be able to deal with the task ahead.
All right.
You know, because there's nothing anybody can do now.
But what about?
INEC has declared him the winner of the election.
Sorry, Stella. What about seeking medical attention in the country without, you know, going out? I mean, it's supposed to be a demonstration of, you know, what you have promised.
Yes, you know, it's good if he sought medical attention in Nigeria, it would have been okay. But then there's nothing wrong with him going out to say, okay, I need medical support, especially if he has maybe, I mean, personal physicians who are in the UK or in the US or in France or any part of the world. But my own concern is that I hope that he is ready to face the challenges ahead. Because, you know, if he's not healthy, it will be a big blow to the Nigerian public. Because you can't have a president who is not mentally alert to deal with the many problems that we are facing in the country.
All right, talking about challenges, one that is on the front burner now is that of the leadership of the NAS. And a lot of people have been saying all eyes are on the president-elect. He hasn't said anything. In fact, before he traveled, he said his is about competence and not, you know, and all. He said he wasn't actually interested, or he didn't have a preferred candidate and all of that. To what extent do you think his intervention will help on this? Because so far we have seen, because the party hasn't zoned it, we have seen people from all parts of Nigeria indicating interest in this position. And there are fears also that what happened in 2015 could repeat itself. And we have also seen people in minority parties in the National Assembly coming together, having meetings and all of that.
No, my own position is that the positions in National Assembly must be zoned. You know, and the reason why I insist that they must be zoned is because, you see, without zoning, there will be no inclusivity. I think I have mentioned this again and again, that Nigeria, you know, must pursue inclusivity. Nigeria must pursue equity. You know, you can't tell us that, oh, you have the president from one part of the country, you have the vice president from one part of the country, the senate president comes from that part of the country, the speaker comes from that part of the country. It doesn't happen. So I'm expecting that by now, it should have been very clear to Nigerians that, look, the positions in the National Assembly, Senate presidency, Speaker of the House of Rep have been zoned. And the zoning must be seen to be fair, to bring others who have been excluded, let me use the word now loosely, into the system, into the governance.
Do you think that the president-elect's intervention will help streamline the process?
He has to intervene because everybody looks up to him now. Everybody believes that, look, you have been elected, you've been announced president of Nigeria, you should take steps. People are watching him. So he has to ensure that there's inclusivity.
All right. Well, a lot of intrigues, really. I'm looking at also what the SAN, Femi Falana, is saying about the election tribunal. Here we have the story that says Falana, others back live broadcast for the election tribunal. So there's a lot really going on as regards that. This is not something that is common here, but because it is a presidential election, and people are very interested. It has become a matter of public interest. People want to see what is going to happen at the tribunal during this litigation. So, what's your own take on this?
Now, I think if people like Falana are saying that there must be live broadcast, it presupposes that they doubt the transparency of the tribunal, because the election that has happened in Nigeria, you saw that a lot of doubts are cast over, especially the presidential results. And I think that in order to ensure that the process, the judicial process, is transparent, there could be a kind of live broadcast. But I'm also feeling that the judiciary must demonstrate that they are quite they are transparent on their own. Even if it is not a live broadcast, the outcome must be clear that look, they didn't take sides, in the process. So I'm feeling that whether it is a live broadcast, whether it is a secret hearing that will take place among the contenders, it is good for the judiciary to demonstrate that they are free and fair. They must demonstrate that they will dispense justice, that they look at the evidence presented to them and come out with the kind of judgment that Nigerians will say, well, they have done the right thing. That's what Nigerians are looking forward to, especially when it comes to the presidential election, when there are doubts, when there are indications that some of the results that were announced by INEC were not actually correct. I remember, I think last week, one newspaper went to a portal, the IRF portal, and tabulated whatever results were found on the portal in Rivers, and they came out with an outcome that is totally different from that of INEC. He said another political party won, based on what is on IRF portal.
All right.
Now, what we're expecting is this. There are a lot of evidence we presented before the tribunal and ultimately the Supreme Court. We expect that they will do the right thing.
Do you think that a live broadcast will make the outcome more acceptable to Nigerians?
No, a live broadcast, like I said, is actually because people have a kind of doubt about the impartiality of the tribunal, and that is why they say, okay, we want to see you on stage, we want to see you on camera, doing it, so that at least if you're on camera, you will not do what is openly wrong, But I'm thinking that it must not be a live broadcast, but the judiciary must be able to come up with an outcome that will be acceptable to all Nigerians, that will be seen to be free and fair.
How much of a distraction do you think that this litigation will be for the incoming government? Because, having to face the tribunal and having to, keep a tab on what's happening at the courts to make sure victory, is gotten, is an issue that the incoming government will have to deal with. Yes, there are lawyers that will be fighting, this case in court on behalf of the new government. But then, do you see that this could be could cause some kind of distraction?
Well, I think it would definitely naturally lead to a kind of distraction, because anybody who's sworn in may be waiting for the judiciary to make a pronouncement that consolidates his position. If he's afraid that the judiciary, the outcome of the judicial process will not favor him, he may not be able to do much. And that is why I think I support those who canvass that after every election, perhaps instead of going through the tribune, I mean the Court of Appeal or the tribunal before the Supreme Court, it is good for us to, I mean, go straight to the Supreme Court. Every appeal should go to the Supreme Court so that the Supreme Court can decide before the government is sworn in. Because if you are a sitting president and it's so clear that your election is still doubtful, you are still not, I mean, it's still precarious. There's no way you can have that presence of mind to be able to do things that you ought to do. Waiting and watching. What will the tribunal do? What will be the outcome of?
But with almost every politician who loses going to seek redress or whatever, don't you think that putting everything on the Supreme Court will be too much?
I think it's the presidential election I'm talking about.
Okay.
Not the governorship. That governorship can, I mean, the governorship. Okay, governorship is also, I mean, it faces the same situation, but I think if we streamline it in such a way that it's okay, let the Supreme Court, handle election litigations. It may actually reduce the number of, days we have to, we have to pass through the litigation process. Then it will also be possible to actually conclude these things before they are sworn in.
But
because what it takes is that Party A brings their own argument, Party B brings in their own argument. Then the judges will sit and look at them and say, okay, let's say this is what we have discovered, this is what we have noticed. We'll come and present your evidence, and then they will decide.
But doctor, you know that for the presidential election, the whole thing takes 180 days. So even if somebody is sworn in, it just within 6 months he knows his fate and he moves on.
But 6 months is a long time, because I mean, if you have to hit the ground running, waiting for 6 months, dilly-dally for 6 months. I think Buhari was quite lucky that in 2015, Jonathan did not talk about any litigation. He said, well, I've lost.
Even at that, we saw that the forming of the cabinet...
It was even delayed.
To 6 months. Yeah. All right, well, that's another story here, which is away from politics now, talking about a Benue man that was buried alive over witchcraft. That's on page 17. I find it absurd that we still have stories like that, these days, coming from the rural areas, and there. What do you make of this kind of scenario? Now, here is a man who is an elderly man who is quite aged, who was mobbed by youths in a village, in a community, because they feel that the man, has killed some people. Now, there was a lightning, and as a result, his son died.
They are alleging that he killed his own son.
Exactly.
Not just even some people, his own son.
So his wife, his son,
and his grandchild,
and a child, and a baby. And everything was blamed on the man. That this is how he causes or he kills people, using witchcraft and all that. So,
but that is the evidence of lack of governance at that level. Because if, for instance, you have effective policing of that community, as soon as policemen discover that, look, some youths are on the rampage and they are threatening the life of an elderly man, they have to mobilize. First of all, maybe whisk the man away, take him to a safe location, because witchcraft cannot be proved. Over time we have discovered that witchcraft cannot be proved. So you can't accuse anyone of witchcraft
is that why
take the law into your hands.
Exactly. So is that why people take laws or matters
into their hands? People are taking the law into their hands because there is no governance.
Way to prove it.
People take the law into their hands because there is no governance.
But in this instance, they went and buried the man alive. The police came there. The only problem was that by the time the police got there, the man had died.
Yeah, but the police ought to have come much earlier. You don't wait until the deed has been done before you get there. If there is governance, as soon as the young men began to protest, somebody will call the police, and police will mobilize and say, look, there's a threat here. Somebody's life is under threat. And then they will come and take him away. So
good enough that you said that somebody will have to make that call. But you have a situation where probably there's a consensus by people in that area or in that community to think that, oh, this man is, it's a witch.
But usually there will not be a kind of consensus, absolute consensus like that, because there are people in the community who will not agree with what the youth did. You know, for instance, if you have a pastor, I'm just giving an example now, in that community who believes in deliverance, say, bring him to me, I will lay hands on him, will deliver him of witchcraft. You understand? So I'm saying that not everybody will concede, but it is because we don't have, even the vigilante in that community, if they knew what they should be doing as vigilante, they will have to rescue the man and ensure that he's taken to a safe location.
Doctor, you keep talking about what they should have done, but why is it that citizens are even thinking this way? We're in the 21st century, 2023, for God's sake.
Because of lack of enlightenment. Look, I was reading a story yesterday. Let me just digress a bit. I read a story yesterday about the Indians, and there's what they call the sati. If you were married and your husband died, you know, then you have to be burnt alive as a woman. The widow must be killed in India. That was in the 19th century. And then the British government and the British colonialists said, no, this is barbaric. This is murder. You understand? So if you compel a widow whose husband, you compel a widow to burn herself alive in the name of tradition or culture or religion, then you have committed murder. And people who compelled women to do it after the law was passed, they were arrested and tried for murder. Now, that was in the 19th century, around 1830 something. What I'm trying to say is this. You see, in Nigeria, even the laws that we have not been implemented. Because there is no law that says somebody is a witch. Because our own legal system has to do with evidence. If you say this man killed his son, he killed his grandson, he killed Mr. A, killed Mr. Where is the evidence? And the evidence must be such that you can tender in the court of law. A murder has to be taken to the court. It's a criminal case. It has to be taken to the court of law. In fact, those who buried the man alive should be taken to court and punished because they have committed murder. So we have to enlighten our people. We have to enlighten ourselves that you cannot accuse anyone of witchcraft and kill. And it happens in several parts of Nigeria. In Cross River State, for instance, for a very long time, even children were molested because they were accused of witchcraft. Somebody who cut a young girl, a young boy's finger. I saw her in my dream. I saw him in my dream. That is a witch. Or one prophet told me that child is going to kill me. And then the next thing you do is to. So there's a whole lot of enlightenment that needs to take place in Nigeria. And the law must work. The law should not be only for politicians. As in urban centers, maybe the law, people try to go to court, people call in the police. But in rural communities, they are also part of Nigeria. The law must be made to function in those areas. You cannot go, even if I were the local government chairman, we have to arrest everybody who participated in that.
But again,
then ensure that they face justice.
But again comes the question of capacity of the police, for instance. So in that particular community, perhaps you may have, if there is, a security or police post or some kind of police station or something, maybe you may not have the adequate number of people that is required to actually arrest that kind of a situation where you have a mob. It's a chaotic. I can only imagine that it's a chaotic scenario here. So it will require quite a lot to put things or to bring things under control. If care is not taken, the police itself will be attacked in the process.
No, I think yes, we don't have enough policemen. We've said that again and again, that the rural areas in Nigeria are not under-policed. But then when you talk about people being enlightened, you understand, it's another issue. Because when you enlighten people to say, okay, witchcraft, you cannot accuse somebody of witchcraft because you don't have evidence of witchcraft. You cannot take the law into your hands. You cannot kill anyone simply because you feel that he has committed an offense. It is illegal. It is a crime to even do that. Then when people are enlightened and taught that, look, if there is any civil disturbance, call the police, call so and so number, and the numbers are effective. If you have about 100 persons who are engaged in that kind of criminal act, and 2 policemen arrive, 10 arrive with a gun or with guns, these people will disperse. because they have superior weapon. You understand? So
All right, well, we
I'm
sure
thinking
need-
that there is need for the police to, to make sure that people can access them. If you are a DPO in a community, maybe in a district, and people don't have your number, they cannot call you. If they call you, you do not connect. It's totally wrong.
All right. We'll certainly need that enlightenment, especially if you consider the fact that it is at a time like this. We're also hearing another story in Kenya where people were said to have starved themselves to death because they feel that starving themselves to death, they will meet God. You know,
Honestly,
they will go to heaven.
that story is beyond me.
So it's certainly a need. We need to have that enlightenment across the continent, not just even in Nigeria, but many parts of the country.
But why is
where we
this
have
more
some of
common
this
in Africa? Just
mysterious,
asking.
or I would say,
But
mythical
I think it has to do with, you know, how words are used on people. You know, I mean, if somebody tells you that, oh, if you fast, you live a righteous life, isolate yourself from the outside world, and you fast until your life is gone. You have not committed any sin. You are now clean. You have prayed in the name of Jesus. You have confessed your sins. That you go to heaven. I mean, a lot of people will believe it.
All right,
It's the
Doctor.
same.
Unfortunately, we have to go. This is a discussion for another day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak and
Thank you,
sharing
everyone.
your perspectives with us. Dr. Theophilus Abba is the director of the Daily Trust Foundation, joining us this morning on Daybreak. We'll take a short breather, and then when we return, top of the hour, we'll take a look at the headlines again. Join us again.